Welcome to episode 6 of the Moody Gooners podcast. We're here today to obviously review the absolutely relieved sort of return to winning ways against Chelsea, the game that literally finished about half an hour ago. So we thought we would come on and sort of do things when the game's pretty much hot off the press, the emotions are still there, the game's fresh in the mind, to try and obviously talk with a bit of accuracy, but also just try and capture the hearts and minds of you guys out there. And with me today, delighted to welcome back my podcasting brother from another mother. Jason's back today to review the game. Welcome. And yeah, before we start again, I just wanted to sort of reiterate what the mission is with the Moody Gooners. So, as I said before, plenty of Arsenal content out there, but what we want to try and do is create that hook, create that kind of ability to give back to charity off the back of the content. So obviously every week, we're a pair of gooners that, just like a lot of people in the world, have our issues, have our moments of weakness mentally, I think it's fair to say. And what we want to do is make sure that through the content, we engage Arsenal fans and football fans across the world, but then also make sure that there's a charitable kind of element to it, which kind of gives to the greater good. And although we're sort of donating money each week based on our predictions, I think I was even thinking today about should we even look at if we can get the views up, could we even donate like a portion of proceeds on the views we get. So if you're viewing this and you like the content, you want to try and do your bit for charity, please subscribe, share, get the word out there, and let's start building up these views together. But yeah, great to see everyone hot off the press, hot off the what I'd say is a really important win. It may not be ultimately important in the context of the season, but I think most Arsenal fans this week have been saying we cannot go out with a whimper this season. Every game we do have a harder run in than City. And to be honest, we've only lost one game since January, so it's not an absolute disaster. But when you're up against a team who's pretty much offers up perfection each week, it's important to to keep the momentum going. And London derby at home, I thought we played really well. Joining me today is Jason. We're going to dive into this one. Let's go into sort of what your mood was like pre-game. How are you sort of feeling? Obviously coming off the back of, let's be honest, quite a chastening night at the Etihad last week. What were your thoughts pre-game?
Yeah, I'm back. Thanks, everybody. I was nervous, honestly. Normally, I'm quite positive and upbeat about these things, but I think what happened at the Etihad was quite. It was just disheartening. We didn't turn up, and we got well and truly schooled in the sort of level that we should be at. So tonight, I thought, right, in one part of my mind, I was sort of looking over the back of my shoulders, like going, oh, hang on a minute, Newcastle are only like, I know it sounds crazy, but they're like 10 points behind. You go up there, next game you lose, and all of a sudden it's down to 7 points, and you're thinking, oh, we're going to fall off a cliff here, So I was really kind of nervous. I didn't know what to expect, and I listened to the commentary in the game, and one of the points they'd said was that Chelsea got a better defensive record than us this year, which I found incredible.
Yeah,
I thought that surely that's not right.
Home. Yeah, I heard that earlier on today myself, and I was blown away by that, because all the narrative this season's been about how bloody awful they've been. And yeah, I mean, I know we've been shipping a lot of goals of late, but yeah, it's certainly food for thought that maybe we're not quite as squeaky clean.
Yeah, exactly.
As we think we are.
Yeah. So given all the goals we've been shipping of late, and the fact that Saliba was still out, and then I saw the starting lineup, and I saw Kivior coming in. Now, I'm still not sold on him, but having him as a sort of right centre back and being left-footed, his sort of first Premier League start, I thought, I don't know. So I was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
Bit surprised with some of the changes. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say I was a bit surprised by some of the changes.
Yeah.
I would have thought Martinelli would have kept his spot. I can understand the Partey one because Partey's been off the boil, but yeah, I was bit surprised, but yeah, I was nervous.
Yeah, I think with me, I was sort of I sort of came into the game feeling a bit confused, to be honest, because there's an element of, when you look at the league table, you think, well, we should be able to be beating these guys, and all the narrative before was it we should be able to beat these guys comfortably. But then there's also that recency of history, and let's be honest, Chelsea have been more successful than us in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, and it's a London derby, and because we're coming into the game still off the back of quite a chastening. I think this is what makes me so satisfied about this win is when I fast forward to the end of the game and how I feel. I'm disappointed that we didn't get fours and fives, but before the game, my prediction for the week was an Arsenal win, and I wouldn't care if it was a scrappy 1-0, or slightly a bit of a basketball game that we kind of sneaked over the line just to win. But actually, to be honest, the personality that we stamped on the game from the get-go and the way we played, I'm absolutely made up with the performance, to be honest, and almost disappointed that we only won by 2 goals. I mean, we're not going to eat into City's goal difference, given that they've got Leeds to play, and then they've got
that ship has sailed now.
that ship has sailed. But I think sometimes a 5-0 victory can be so morale boosting, it's untrue, and I think that was on today. But I sort of came into the game feeling a bit sort of unsure. I kind of thought, well, my head tells me that Arsenal should be favourites, but when it's a London derby and you're coming into a game off the back of 3 draws and a defeat, it can take so long to build confidence up, and it can be a matter of 2 games, and suddenly you're sort of looking around trying to think, oh, where's the next wing going to come from? And have all these kind of freak out moments in the first parts of Arteta where we went sort of. I remember in the autumn of his when he first joined, I think we went 9 or 10 games when I think we drew 2 and then lost all the rest. I remember celebrating a 2-2 draw at home against Southampton, thinking, "Great, we stopped the bleeding." So I still have that kind of that those freak out moments on, even though this is a different kind of a different team. And I'm with you on the team news. For me, it was actually great to see Arteta make changes and not rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
I think it did call for some freshening up, maybe some new ideas. I wouldn't say that he really freshened up the actual structure and the layout of the team. It was more personnel changes. I was very happy Trossard was given a go, because I think that he's one player who deserves to start a few more games based on merit. In fact, I was a bit disappointed he got substituted on the hour mark today, because I'd love to see him be given more full games, to be honest. But I actually thought maybe he'd come in and play on the right hand side for Saka, because Saka has looked a bit jaded. And I'm with you. I was blown away that Martinelli didn't start. But to be honest, by the same token, when you think about people finishing the game, when he came off the bench and was up against Azpilicueta, I was licking my lips, to be honest, because I thought, okay, this now kind of starts to make a bit more sense. But glad that he came in. I was happy to see Jorginho come in. I did have a thought before that maybe we might start Tierney and even just move Zinchenko into midfield to stop us leaving, because I think Zinchenko has made a few errors of late, with against Southampton for their second goal, and tonight he was at fault. He was kind of switched off, wasn't really.
The concentration, isn't it? There is something there with him. He has these moments. He's got quality, and there's no doubt of that. And he's got the way that his positional awareness to sort of moving, but he switches off occasionally. I've noticed. I thought, am I being overly critical of it? But I think he does.
For Southampton's second goal, I think he sort of lost. He didn't have the awareness of what was going on behind him, which is kind of strange. When you play in midfield, you should really be aware of what's in front of you, to the side and behind. But
sure,
he got caught napping for their goal tonight, and also Southampton. So I thought maybe if you put him into midfield and maybe ask him to kind of just play in that position, maybe you've actually got a double midfield pivot there. So I was kind of looking, and I don't know why. When I think about how Partey's been a bit weak of late relative to how good he's been, I was actually thinking maybe Xhaka would give way for Jorginho. So I was quite surprised. Maybe Partey's carrying a knock.
I don't know. In my opinion, I think he's looked really. He's in a bit of bad form. He's hit a bad form, and he's not the usual dependable, Rolls Royce of a player that we've come to sort of, admire and appreciate. And so I think tonight, I mean, Jorginho's performance, I think, was really on point. Is exactly what we needed. I think really assured, nothing too elaborate, just keeping things moving over. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I thought when I saw that, I thought, okay, that's a good change. What do
Yeah.
you think of
And
Kivio coming in?
to be honest, it was one I'm actually a fan of the recruitment of the player. I think he'd only played 14 minutes of game time since he joined. So I know, and I know against Liverpool, I think Arteta didn't really do him any favours the way he chucked him in at
Yeah, no,
Anfield,
yeah,
playing like a strange position. I remember he got caught on the halfway line in that game in his
yeah,
first touch, and I did notice in the first 5-10 minutes he did give the ball away. But what I did notice is when he did give the ball away, he actually kind of he got back and he won the ball again. So I'm actually happy. I didn't expect it to happen, to be honest. I mean, it's actually quite rare that you see two left-footed centre. I don't know why it's such a taboo, to be honest. It's a load of nonsense when you think about it.
I know.
You can have
So,
two right-footed centre halves. Why can't
so
you have
why
two
can't you have two
left-footed
left?
ones?
Yeah,
I did think he would go for Holding just purely because we were at home, and I thought maybe he might make changes in, maybe with Trossard coming in, maybe with Jorginho. I wasn't surprised to see it, but I was quite surprised Kivior was in. But then I was quite excited. I thought, well, you know, this Chelsea team are not known for their goal scoring, so let's see what he's all about. Maybe it was a
yeah.
decent game to put him in, and I actually think he started off a little bit shakily, but he didn't really make any errors. I think the best thing about centre halves sometimes is when you don't notice them because they're just being dependable, mopping stuff up and keeping it ticking. So, what was your take on Kivior? Were you surprised or
Uh, I wouldn't say surprised,
Mm,
but I think what it shows, and I'm not being critical of the quality of the play here, but I think what it shows is the lack of depth that we have in the positions compared to somebody like City. You know, I want to say lack of depth. I mean, maybe I do mean quality as well, because the drop off
mm,
from Saliba to Holding is quite significant in quality. And if City lose a centre back like Diaz or something, that they can call on people like John Stones. They got Akanji, they got Ake as well, Laporte. They've got top quality centre backs that can come in. And so when I see somebody like Kivior, who's unproven, I know he's got a bit of a talent, and we're looking at Rob Holding as well. The dependable players, and maybe Kivior will end up being one of the best centre backs in the world, but
mm.
I just it makes me a little bit nervous when that sort of
Yeah.
stuff happens.
I
And
think
I
you
think,
raise a good point there though, because Holding, we know what Holding's level is now. I think the exciting thing with someone like Kivior is, he started every game for Poland in the World Cup. He's obviously well regarded. He's versatile, and with the age that he's at, I think sometimes football fans lose sight of the fact that when you sign a player, there's almost that sort of, well, oh, we signed this player, that they're almost going to stay at that level. They can go up, they can go down. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Kivior turn out to be a good player. Obviously, too early to say, but obviously we know Rob Holding. He's not going to dramatically improve at this stage of his career, is he?
no,
I mean,
no.
he is what he is. He's a dependable, rugged centre half, no nonsense kind of player. But yeah, to be honest with you, when I look back, I didn't. I expected Holding maybe to start, but I was quite glad to see Kivior. I thought, well, let's see what you're about
Yeah,
then.
I mean, we've got to give him a chance at some point, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, uh, you know, better now than against Newcastle, I'd say.
And I think the last thing to say about the team news as well is that we had Jorginho against his former club, and then the Gabonese snake himself, Aubameyang, leading the line for Chelsea, which just added a bit of pantomime.
Uh,
But half his touches were kickoffs anyway. So,
yeah.
but what was
So
your
I
take on
think,
Aubameyang? Were you worried about a jilted former lover,
well,
coming back to
I
stab us
think
in the back between the
I
bed
think
sheets?
Frank thought, well, okay, let's throw Ober in. He hasn't played a lot, but maybe he wants to sort of prove a point against
Yeah,
Arsenal, especially given the way that he was sort of ushered out of the door. Um, but part of me thought, I wanted to believe that it was going to end up how it ended up, in that it was a complete and utter failure, you know.
yeah,
But I thought, oh, he's just going to get one of these little cheeky chances, and he's just gonna smash it in, and it's just, yeah. I thought that might, but I'm really glad it didn't, and things panned out the way they did, and he was off at halftime. Brilliant.
that was brilliant. I mean, I even heard, when the stadium announcer announced the substitution. The crowd sort of laughed and cheered at the same time. It was brilliant, and I think that was like the best sort of possible scenario for us. I mean, there's a bit of, and we do tend to be that team where a random player scores against us. And I remember Andy Carroll getting a hat trick once for West Ham, and so I had sort of some fears there, to be honest. But when I saw, well, I mean, the way I would describe the first half though is that the best way to stop Aubameyang getting touches and players of that ilk, because let's be honest, they do have quality, was to, I know it was great to see a return to winning the ball high up the pitch. I mean, and they had the average touch map of Chelsea players. Every single one of them was in their own half, which was fantastic. And
Yeah, I saw that. Brilliant.
which is brilliant to see.
What we did today, which set the tone for the entire game, was we won the midfield battle. We didn't allow Chelsea to get the ball through midfield, and so Aubameyang was completely isolated and unable to do anything, and starved of possession. And there were no balls going over the top or around the sides. And the three in midfield, that in my mind, they really sort of dictated things and took the game by the scruff of the neck, and they just suffocated Chelsea in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first half was, I almost want to cry. It was so good. I mean, it was so great. Off the back of that City game, we've been feeling so sheepish and kind of down. And I think, Arsenal teams of even a year or two ago would have probably just withered away. And, great that we've got the Champions League qualification, but it was so good that the team played basically, for me, in the first half like they still believe that there is a title to be won here. Obviously, it's not in our hands anymore, but they played. I mean, what was your? I mean, let's review the first half. What was your sort of what was your overall take and sort of key themes that you noticed?
Well, I think, without going into, I can go into great detail as well, but I think the Chelsea game, although I was nervous beforehand, I think it was probably the perfect game for us as a team, because they have been so utterly terrible the entire season that, and this is not something that you normally think or say of Chelsea, but they've offered absolutely nothing for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
And so they were probably the best team for us to play, for us to sort of get that result and get that little bit of belief back. And it was really odd, thank God we're playing Chelsea, although I was a bit nervous, but thank God we were playing them, because we have the chance to get 3 points on the board, good performance. And the game played out like that. The first half, I mean, the guys, they started out a bit sloppy in possession, but then I think both teams did. A few loose balls here and there from both teams, struggling to string some passes together. I thought that, I mean, to sort of Arsenal's credit, and this is where the difference was, that Arsenal were hungrier and they were winning second balls. And I think that made the difference. And that all stemmed from the midfield, the sort of pressing, that sort of high press. You had Xhaka, Ødegaard and Jorginho sort of dictating and dominating that play area there, and sort of, not giving Chelsea the chance to breathe. And that sort of led the way, really, in my view. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think lately Ødegaard has. I know it's easy to say now after the event because he scored 2 goals, but I felt that his work rate. Yeah, obviously he had the polish today of getting the goals in the bag in the first half, but I actually felt his all-round game, his work rate, his hunger. I think for me he personified the hunger in terms of winning the ball back with urgency, and he was in a hurry basically today to get the game moving. And I also felt Jesus. I felt in the first half particularly. He worked. Sometimes again he drops a little bit too deep, which you could argue the toss. Like, do you want your number 9 playing 10 yards inside the opposition half? But just his work rate on that left hand side, and then Odegaard's work in that kind of right hand pocket, I think just kind of set us up for success. And then you had Jorginho in there. I mean, I would say at the start of the half, we were in kind of total control in terms of territory. The tempo was good. I think my main sort of theme in the first half that sort of came to my mind was that it was patience paid off, because I was getting a little bit impatient sort of in the first 15 minutes of the game, thinking like, you know, yeah, to your point, we did make a few sloppy passes. I remember Ramsdale passed one out from the back and basically went straight to a Chelsea player, but we're able to kind of really smother it and kind of
Yeah, I know.
clear our lines and eventually play through to the right hand side. But um, I felt I for the amount of dominance we had again, and I know it's been a bit of a bugbear of me. Maybe I'm reading things the wrong way, but I was thinking I'm not really seeing huge amounts of chance creation and goal threat for the
Yeah.
dominance that we've
I know
got.
what you mean. I do know what you mean. It's like I was
Yeah.
watching the play up until the goal, and I was thinking, where's the goal going to come from?
Mm,
This is all very nice. We're pushing them, we're pressing them, we're passing, we're moving, but there's no penetration. And so I was
yeah.
like, what? How's this going to play out? And
Yeah.
then a theme of the half was the space that Granit Xhaka found in that little pocket on the left hand side.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
seemed this is not the player I remember.
No,
He's
and to be honest, not I was almost half expecting Xhaka to maybe be asked to drop deeper a bit to create a bit more defensive solidity, but he still played his game
Mm,
almost playing left wing in the first half
yeah,
and kind of taking up those positions. I mean, in the start of the game, I mean he had that shot. I mean, to be honest, I talk about goal threat, but we did have a chance inside the first 5 minutes where Xhaka found himself on the kind of pretty much the corner of the 6 yard box, and Kepa saved well with his legs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I felt like it was Kepa did well to kind of come out, but that was
Oh,
a
that
that
was
was
the
a good.
Azpilicueta header, wasn't it? Where he jumped too soon. Yeah, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, it was all harum scarum in the box for Chelsea, and then obviously Saka had a header. Never seen him take a header, to be honest. But yeah, not much actually out and out goal threat. But again, maybe that's a lesson for me as a fan. Maybe I just need to again trust the process. The rhythm, the passing, and the Arsenal trying to pick up those little pockets of space and try and work the opportunity. It does feel sometimes like we are trying to score the perfect goal every time. But maybe that's where I'm a bit ignorant. Maybe I just need to have faith in the fact that if we keep playing in this kind of rhythm and this way, eventually we will score. And at halftime, I was sitting there going, "Why did I even doubt it?" You look at the score line and when and the goals, and you think, well, maybe I should have been more patient. I mean, the only chance really that I can remember for Chelsea, apart from Ramsdale cocking up the ball out from the back, was
Chilwell.
Chilwell was set
Yeah,
free, and I felt
great
that
save.
Ramsdale kind of went to his near post a bit and left the far post open. But yeah, it was a good height for Ramsdale, but it was a good solid save, and it was
Good
good to see
save.
him, getting in the game. I mean,
Yeah,
he had nothing to do really in that first half, and obviously he did one bad pass out from the back and one great save. So, but I just think, yeah, I just think we were super solid. And I mean, do we want to jump into the goals? I mean,
yeah.
the
Let's
first
have a
two were
look at.
basically a carbon copy of each other, weren't they? Really?
Well, yeah, the first two brilliant. I mean, the first one was Ødegaard in that sort of pocket of space, wasn't it? And then he sort of picked out his cross, and Ødegaard sort of came in. What I would say is that it was awful defending from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Like Sterling was the guy in front of him, and I know Sterling's not a defender, but as a team, you've got a duty of care to defend when you're under
Mm.
pressure. You can't suddenly turn around and go, "Well, I'm a midfielder, I don't defend." You can't do that. So
Yeah.
the positioning, it was just like they were all asleep, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. They would he Ødegaard just sort of moved in front of him, and he was just there, and wonderful finish. He didn't really get too much power on it because the cross did what it needed to do, and then that finish off the underside of the bar,
Oh, is there anything more
beautiful.
arousing than a ball that cannons
I
off the
know
bar,
it's just
bounces
it's
down and
sexy.
comes
It's
back onto?
sexy.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Is that gets the pulses racing as far as
yeah,
I'm concerned. Wow. I mean, I mean, Kepa got a hand on it, but yeah, it was Odegaard watched the ball, perfect technique, watched it onto his foot, and a great finish. But I'm with you. I mean, if you like any kind of, I mean, I could go on about Frank Lampard as a manager, and how terrible he is, and how he keeps getting opportunities. I'll never know. But if you're preparing to play Arsenal this season, one of the most underrated players from an attacking perspective is Granit Xhaka. I mean, the amount of times this season he's popped up and delivered, nice little crosses to the far post. I remember Jesus scoring against Brentford, a nice ball hung up to the far post. He scored against Southampton, arriving in the box, and he's kind of always in and around that left-hand side of the box, looking to either hang crosses up or he's that kind of chaos factor when the ball breaks in the box. So why they won't, and he's obviously got a good left foot on him. So for both goals, I mean
they didn't know
the
what to
first,
do with him.
it's mad because
nobody knew who to pick up.
it's crazy because he doesn't do anything particularly flashy or, if I'm comparing a player, for example, tonight, there was times when Mudryk was off the bench and he was running, Ben White was backing off, and he's got that kind of fear factor, Mudryk, the way he plays. It
Yeah,
almost,
you can see
but
that.
Granit Xhaka is almost so predictable. I think maybe someone's opposing players sort of almost take him a bit lightly.
It's a surprise to them, isn't it? What are you
Yeah,
doing there?
because it's not flashy stuff, but it's super super effective. Whether he's
Yeah.
got a good cross on him, he can hang balls up, he can fire balls in low, he can arrive in the box now. I mean, do we sell him in the summer? I'm not too sure now. He's
No, you
the
see,
wrong age of 30, but
yeah, but I've read all this. I've read all the same stuff you've probably read, and so I'm of the opinion. I'm in the camp where you think to yourself, right? Again, going back to what I said about City and their defenders and comparing it to our squad, we're now going to be operating in the Champions League as well, which is again a higher level of European football. We're going to need quality players. So why do we need to sell Xhaka and then bring in someone like Declan Rice? Why not have both of them and let them duke it out? Surely this is, if we're striving to be, at the top of the table, because I do think there is a gulf between City and the rest of the league. So if we're striving to sort of bridge that gap, shouldn't we be, Xhaka's performances this season have been brilliant. If you look at the season as a whole, he's been absolutely brilliant.
He now has 5 goals and 7 assists.
I mean,
which for a guy who was on the scrap heap, getting sent off every week, picking up yellow cards, I think of all the great stuff Arteta's done, this must be in the top 3 for me. You think about galvanizing the fans and the connection.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think bloody hell, like I've always been one at the ground back in the Emery era where I was, shouting at him for being crap and getting cheap yellow cards but
yeah, the yellow cards, the red cards, the penalties, the inability to slide tackle. Yeah, I was in the same camp. I wanted him out, but the transformation in this guy is unbelievable. And credit to him, credit to Arteta, that they've turned it around. And now this guy is, to use a football manager phrase, he's an important player for us. Maybe not a key player, but an important player.
Yeah.
And so you've got to keep him around, and he's got the experience now. So you need leaders. I mean, I know if we bring in maybe another 1 or 2 centre mids in the summer, I think we need to keep players like that around. He will get game time, even if we brought in someone like a Declan Rice or a Caicedo or whoever it may be. There will be game time there for Xhaka.
Be interesting. I mean, we can obviously cover this on a separate pod, but it'd be interesting to see if he'd say, say, for example, we buy 2 central midfielders in the summer. Someone's obviously got to give way, I would say, and be really interested to see, because I mean, Xhaka's really played himself into a position where he's pretty much indispensable at this point. Which
but
again, I
don't
cannot
forget,
believe I'm saying those words about him.
Yeah, I know, it's incredible. I mean, don't forget though, that Jorginho's only got at the end in the summer. He's only got 12 months left on his contract. So
yeah,
I think there was always the view with Jorginho that it wouldn't necessarily be a long-term thing. So maybe, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how Partey plays. It's just a bit of bad form he's hit at the moment. So, I'm expecting him to come back. You don't suddenly go from hero to zero overnight. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe in the summer we do like a transfer rumors podcast.
Yeah. Let's do it. If anyone in the comments wants to let us know what you think about that. We're all ears for sure. But I mean, let's go into the the next goal was the same combination again. I think this time though, if anything, although visually, the ball not cannoning off the bar for the second one probably, lowers the arousal factor, shall we say. But what I loved about the second goal was Odegaard's movement. He was kind of behind Sterling, and he made that sort of arcing run in from behind. He was almost hiding behind Sterling, and then kind of came out in front of him, and then attacked the near post, and then just basically used the guided the ball into the bottom corner, used the pace of the ball, and it was that man again. It was our marauding number 8 midfield dynamo, Granit Xhaka. Again, Chelsea not closing down, and the ball was able to kind of travel, pretty much across the entire goal to the 6-yard, to the penalty spot, basically.
I think that cross was,
which was mental.
I genuinely think that Granit has picked Odegaard out with that cross. That's what I find really impressive about that goal, is that it's not just a hit into the box. You think back to people like Tierney or even Kolasinac, who just run down the wing, blast the ball in and hope somebody was there. I think he's picked him out, and he's picked out the movement of Odegaard as well
I agree.
And that makes it all the more impressive for me. Brilliant finish.
I totally agree. I think back in the dark old days around wing play and stuff, it was more about, as long as you get chalk on your boots, get down to the touchlines, whip the ball in. There's almost like that thing. Well, I've done my job. Someone's got to be attacking my crosses. Well, actually, there's different types of forwards these days. There's players like to drop into the pocket. There's big, tall, strapping number 9s, and I think actually it's kind of incumbent on the wide players to actually, when they do pick at a cross, know when to cut the ball back, know when to hang one up to the far post, know when to put a bit of whip on it, know when maybe to go to dribble and carry the ball into the box, maybe win a penalty. So I agree with you. I think it was great play by Shaq. I mean, obviously Chelsea, if that goal was against us, I'd be annoyed at how the ball was able to get across. I think it went past about 2 or 3 Chelsea defenders inside the box.
Awful.
But quality by Xhaka. He didn't just blast it into an area. It was and then our main man again was involved in the third goal.
Yeah, again, what I will say again, once this is why I think the game was perfect for us, because I wasn't expecting. I mean, I know Chelsea are bad, but I didn't realise they were this bad. Because the third goal, they ended up with their 2 centre backs sat on their arse. Basically, it was comical. it was literally comical. I mean, it was a bit scrappy. The goal, Xhaka had a pop, the 2 defenders on the backside, and then Jesus sort of sweeps the ball in. I mean, I was just looking at it in disbelief. I was just like, I was ecstatic, but
I think there was Fofana in there, wasn't there, and Silva, and it sort of cannoned off.
Yeah,
I think Xhaka tried to sweep the shot, and then it kind of cannoned off, and then Jesus just stepped up and just finished it off. Sort of
clinical.
bit more ruthless, I would say.
Yeah.
He showed why he's a striker, I think, in that moment.
Yeah. So brilliant. So we're looking at 3-0. Chelsea were looking utter. I've never seen a Chelsea team look this bad. I can't remember a Chelsea team looking this bad, and especially after they've spent so much money as well. And I mean, it'd be interesting to see if Frank lasts the season, because if they don't and they bring another one in, that'll be their 4th manager of the season.
I'll tell you what we need to do on this pod as well. One of us needs to comb through. I mean, you might be surprised to hear with my hairline, I don't have a comb, but one of us needs to comb through Twitter and have a look at Lampard out and see if that's trending, because he's only on a short-term deal, but he's lost 6 games out of 6.
6 games in a row.
And he just sat there on the bench with his arms folded, just looking like an utterly broken man. I mean, Jesus Christ.
He doesn't have any. He hasn't offered anything different other than what Potter was doing.
Yeah.
And he rolls out Aubameyang, thinking that Aubameyang's going to sort of rock up at the Emirates and sort of roll back the years. It's hilarious.
I can't believe, I really rated him as a player, massive respect for his career as a player, but as a manager, I just don't think he's at it. And it goes to prove, just by chucking a legend into the dugout doesn't always, it's not always the way it works. But enough said about those. He's
not quite Gary Neville, at Valencia, but
it's not far off.
Some players are not. They don't have the manager material, and I think Frank is definitely stacking up to be one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. I mean, if I was a manager of a team that was getting so comprehensively beaten, I'd be probably making a substitute towards the end of the first half. I'd certainly be getting out of my chair and kind of, getting a bit more animated, because there was no. I think what you said at the start around there's just no fight from them was actually quite staggering. I think they're obviously just. They're obviously a club that's not in harmony, not in sync. I mean, they made all these signings, and at the same time they had in Graham Potter, like a project manager that's going to be there for a longer period of time. But then at the same time they're buying lots of kind of slightly aging squad and just filling up the team, and it does not seem to be the kind of. I mean, I'm just so grateful for Arsenal at the moment, the way we're doing things. I mean, you can agree with the transfer strategy of Arsenal, you can disagree, but at the end of the day, every Arsenal fan knows what the strategy is, and I think when you know that there's a clarity there, I think that enables you just to get behind it. But anyway, let's stop talking about Chelsea, because they make me sick.
I know.
Even
we're digressing a bit too much.
Even the name of the club, but it's great to see them. Not even at the 40-point mark yet in the start of May. That's and hopefully they get dragged in.
Are they not? They're not at 40 points. I didn't even look.
No, they can still mathematically go down. So let's see what that wage bill looks like when they're playing against Huddersfield next season.
So second half.
Second half, I mean, I don't know what you thought, but I just felt what was great. I mean, sometimes I've noticed in the games before, when you go 3-0 up, and actually where I got a little bit paranoid was because we were 2-0 up against Liverpool, 2-0 up against West Ham, and took our foot off the gas. I was a bit worried about the second half, because you do see a lot of teams when they are 3-0 up at half time, they sort of decide to kind of just manage the game out, not put the same intensity into it, but just kind of like make sure they get the win and just sort of sit back. But what I loved about it is that we flew out of the traps. We created plenty of chances. Yeah. Saka drove a shot just wide of the post. We looked really dangerous at set pieces. Gabriel was winning a few bits, and we had that shot cleared off the line where, I still really rate Thiago Silva. By the way, he's one of my more favourite centre halves in the Premier League, even though he plays
same age as me.
Yeah, it's mad, but that coolness to kind of thigh trap the ball and volley it away on the line. I was convinced that had gone over the line, but it was just so nice to see us kind of coming out, even though we were 3-0 up in complete control. There was that determination to keep our foot on their throats, rather than say, look, let's not concede in the first 15 minutes. Let's be nice and defensively solid. But we came out and actually showed that intent to get that fourth goal and really lay down a marker. That's probably where my frustration at the end of the game comes from, the fact we didn't do that, because we were good. We played so well that we almost deserved it. In fact, I don't know if you noticed, but the crowd were olaying after 55, 56, 57 minutes. Which
I did notice that. I did notice that. On one hand, I was thinking, this is nice, but on the other hand, I was thinking, let's maybe take stock of where we are and what's happened over the last month or so I didn't want us to get too carried away. And then obviously not long after the Olays, they went and bloody scored, so then the atmosphere changed, and I was thinking to myself, okay, let's we haven't won this yet. So
because I noticed that there seemed to be like almost two sort of small phases of the second half for me before they scored. There was the bit at the start of the second half where we were in massive control. They were not even getting a sniff. It was almost a continuation of the end of the first half, where the chances were starting to flow. The quality was there. We had a foot on their
finishing
throats.
It was what was missing in the second half for me was the clinical side of things. Where in the first half, where the chances came to Odegaard, there was no mistake. They were in, and even with the sort of scrappy nature of the third goal, it was finished. You've listed off a few chances there. There was the Gabriel one off the line. There was the Jack and nutmeg, and that got tipped around. That was a great move.
Who is this guy?
I know.
And
then Saka had a couple of chances, and one of them was the low driven one. But so the chances were there, but they just weren't finished off. And then we started. To me, it felt we got a little bit blasé, and we blowing the ball around. The Olays came out, and maybe a touch of arrogance. And then there was that moment. Then Chelsea got a bit more. They got on the ball a bit more, and there was a bit more purpose and a bit more directness to them. And I guess that then leads into their goal. And Zinchenko falling asleep a bit.
I sort of noticed in the lead up to their goal, whereas in the first half we were sort of towards the end of the half, we were winning the ball back whenever we did lose it and creating chances at the same time. What I noticed just before they scored was we were still attacking with intent, but I noticed we started to give the ball away, and it became a bit Emery ball there for me at that point, because I noticed it became a bit of a counter-attacking game where they got on the ball, countered us, we got on the ball, countered them, and there was a bit of me thinking, oh, this is kind of, again, it's one of those ones where you think, if I was a neutral, I'd be enjoying this, but I'm not a neutral, and the game started getting a little bit open, but not in a good way. It felt that we were not winning the ball back.
We're losing control of the game.
In the midfield, they were just kind of. And I actually think of all the Chelsea players, Madueke, he was probably the most. Like, he looked. There was a moment in the first half where he carried the ball pretty much half the length of the field and then run out of path. But he looked like the one Chelsea player that had a little. I was quite impressed by him, actually. I thought Kante did all right, to be fair. But he chopped the ball into the ground, which I think goalkeepers always struggle with, because they get set in a certain position thinking the ball's going to come here, but then they have to readjust themselves, and because it was right in front of Ramsdale, I think Ramsdale's got no chance. But to your point, I think Zinchenko just needs to have that. He needs to scan. He needs to kind of just turn his head and just, before the ball gets played into that area, and just kind of know where his man is. Because that's 2 times now in the last 3 games where we've conceded a goal where he's. I mean, I think when we signed Zinchenko, there was always that fear that his defensive game is not quite as good as what he can do technically and with the ball in the build up of the play. But it wasn't exactly like a scintillating Chelsea move, and it reminded me of that Southampton second goal where the ball just sort of slid in behind him, and he sort of, he's caught napping a bit, and and it only takes a second in the Premier League. You're conceding goals against Southampton. We know that even though Chelsea are shit, they do have players in their squad. They do have a deep squad of talented players, which kind of makes Lampard look even more foolish, to be honest, because they do have the players there to hurt you, and all it takes is one switching off, and that's your lot. And then at that point, I mean, I'd be interested to know from you, like, when it went to 3-1, my first thoughts were, we've tried to get the 4th goal, we haven't been able to do it, we've now conceded, and suddenly all those fears that I've had, after the Liverpool away game, and the West Ham game started flooding back. And the question I've got for you is, do you think we should shut up shop at that point, or do you think we should play with that confidence, knowing that, okay, they've got 1, but we'll probably get the 4th? Because I was very much like, let's try and close the back door for 10 or 15 minutes. Let's manage that in the game, and then try and nick a 4th maybe towards the end.
I think I think they went for it, didn't they? I think we tried to have an immediate response to Chelsea, to them getting that goal.
Yeah,
we tried to push and go for the 4th, and I think we were confident in our abilities. But I do think that, given the vulnerabilities that we have had at the back, and then I mean, at this point as well, Gabriel started pulling up and falling over.
Oh my God.
I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on with you? And so, the game was a bit stretched, and I was thinking maybe we should sort of show a bit of game management here and sort of pull back a little bit and control the ball and just use it and move it, move Chelsea around, but, just kind of stay solid and compact. But we did sort of try.
That, I think bringing Tierney on was a good move by Arteta, because we know that he's good defensively, and then obviously we ended up seeing Thomas Partey entering the fray, which to try and sew things up. So it was actually quite nice to have Partey on the bench in a way, because when he does come on, you think, we are bringing on a quality player in that kind of position. But I'm with you on the Gabriel thing. I couldn't work it out. There was a bit of me thinking, Jesus, we're playing Newcastle on the weekend.
Oh, well,
if you've got any kind of muscle injury, and because it looked like he was holding his hamstring.
It looked like he held a hamstring,
and then he went down and held his calf, and then the last thing, it was his ankle. So I was thinking, is it a cramp thing? And for me, anything muscular, you've just got to come off. Like, you're 3-1 up. We still have a decent enough lead in the game, but then I'm trying to trust the medical staff and think, well, if it isn't a hamstring injury, if it isn't, because I think Jamie Carragher was saying it might be a hamstring thing, and that normally, but by him almost carrying on initially, I was actually quite buoyed by that because I thought, well, he's obviously well enough to keep playing, but then when you keep going down and you think, okay, the Newcastle game now is absolutely massive. Like we've got to win that game now. Well, we've got to win
Yeah.
them all, but I'm sitting there going, Rob Holding's not a bloody disaster. Let's, happy to bring him on.
Yes,
Because
but
Gabriel played quite well, I thought tonight. It was,
yeah,
it was
no,
back to
I
his
mean,
old, his old
I think
self.
they did well. I think Kivior did well as well. But my fear now is, we're moving on ever so slightly here. Is that Gabriel is, because it's Sunday. It's at the end of this week, so there's like
Yeah.
5-6 days. Or we're gonna need to sort of. That's a small turnaround, and if he's got any sort of
Yeah.
heavy knock or calf injury or he's a doubt, and then you end up with Holding and Kivior at the back, which, I mean, if you ask any fan, they're not going to be overly excited by that partnership. It's not quite Old Trafford vibes. I mean, I can't remember who was it. Was it Stepanovs? Was he? I can't remember.
I think we dragged Luzhny into the centre of defence for that game. To be fair, as well.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Moving on from that one.
moving on from that, momentary, moment
Trip
of
down memory lane.
terrible. Yeah, that was awful. Yeah, so I'm just a bit concerned. I hope he's all right because we do
Yeah.
need him.
I mean, again, I like to think the fact that he played on means, because if I'm the coach and I see the player's definitely got a hamstring injury, you're getting that player out straight away. I mean, I've never seen a player carry on after a hamstring or, like a calf strain or something like that. But they obviously felt that he could run it off. But then there's that cautious side of you think, so if there is any doubt, just get him off.
Yeah, I think we could have managed a lot longer with
Yeah,
Holding at the back.
I think
Chelsea
so.
weren't offering that much. I mean, you mentioned Mudryk before. Mudryk seemed to sort of give them an out
Yeah.
on that left.
He's terrifying, isn't he, when he runs at you? There's like a
There's
real,
some quality there. There's
yeah,
definitely some quality there. Maybe not 100 million's worth of quality, but definitely
yeah,
something there.
yeah. He's got that kind of X factor when he gets the ball down, and I think most defenders fear pace, don't they? And he's got bundles that he's got that directness. But yeah, what was your read on the fact that Chelsea? Because I was expecting, they've got that goal back. There's still enough time. I think they scored after, was it 64 minutes or something like that? There's enough time. 65 minutes.
Yeah.
There's enough time in that game for them to potentially come back and steal a draw. Let's be honest. And given the recency of what Arsenal have been doing in terms of getting ahead in games and chucking the potential victories away. What was your read on the fact that I expected Chelsea to,
No.
Havertz is a good player. I
Mm.
know, they've still got people like Ziyech on the bench who came on, Havertz. They've got quality players to bring on, but I was really blown away actually why there was no kind of,
Well, there's a reason that they're where they are in the table.
yeah. But
You
then I'm
know,
also looking at the quality of the players in their squad, and I think, well,
yeah, but
they're still capable of doing something.
they're not a team. This is the thing.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of individuals. Todd Bowley has gone down and done the football manager thing and just splurged hundreds of millions on all of these wonderful glittery footballers, and there's no nucleus, there's no glue there to pull it all together. And
Mm.
with the way that they chopping and changing managers, there's no sort of coherent structure there. It's never going to work at that moment.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to. Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, they can't offer anything, and
Yeah.
this is why I
I thought
think it
though there might
was.
be some moment of individualism, maybe. That maybe Ziyech would put a cross, like a
Well,
zingy, a stinging cross in, or there'd be something. I don't know. I mean, I was quite surprised because
I
if
think Mudryk would
with
be
the
the only
timing
player
of
to
their
do it.
goal, I thought, okay, there might be something. There might be something here for them.
Well, then they took the guy off, didn't they? They took Madueke off. He
Yeah.
scored the goal, and what, like 5-10 minutes later, he was off. And it's like, he's been the only player to sort of offer anything leave him on the field. Make some changes elsewhere. If you brought Mudryk on and Madueke, you could have caused some problems. But I just think this comes down to their poor management and the decision making. I mean, they haven't offered anything. I think the players know that they're not going to get in Europe. They're not going to get relegated. Chelsea, they're going to pick up a few more points. They're just sort of they just are at the moment where they are.
Yeah, I mean, Havertz had a few. He forced a save from Ramsdale and had a couple of half chances. I mean, they did carve out a few things, but they certainly did not feel in the game that the screw was starting to tighten, because all Chelsea really needed to do was try and nick a second goal.
Yeah, and then nerves would.
And then the nerves would have just completely kicked in for the crowd and potentially the players. But yeah, it was just not there to be. And in the end, I do actually feel second half once the game did. One thing I did like about Arsenal that we haven't done that well recently is when Chelsea did get their goal, we managed the game better. We didn't. I felt at the start of the second half we were going hell for leather. We were a little bit naive, probably. We're probably just saying that we've got the ability to put the fourth in. But when we did concede, I did notice that we did manage the game better. We still looked quite potent on when we did get forward, but there was definitely one eye on, or more than one eye on, locking up the door behind, which was actually good to see, to be honest, because again, it would have been nice to see a fourth and a fifth, because I think the performance did warrant it tonight. But I'm happy that we didn't just completely shit the bed recently like we have done and concede goals, and we did sort of lock things down a bit at the back, which was nice to see. But yeah, great win. It's just brilliant to be to have 3 points again. It's a lovely
top of the
feeling.
league, mate.
You take it for granted, and we're top. We've got 4 games to go now, top of the league. City now play twice before we play Newcastle. All we can do is just keep our fingers crossed, and then and I do think now, like if we are able to go to St James's Park and get a win, it then suddenly becomes quite doable that we do win our final. Like, I wouldn't have said that a few days ago. I mean, it's amazing how quickly things can turn around. But if we do go and win against Newcastle, and it is going to be one of our hardest games this season, to be fair, they're on great form. But I do think that if we were to get the confidence from a win against Chelsea and then to do it against those guys, I'd then be confident of 2 of our last 3 games would then be at home. I know we've got Brighton, but I wouldn't then rule out us winning all of our games, to be honest. But
yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think a lot now depends on what Man City do, because they've got, is it West Ham tomorrow, and then
West Ham tomorrow, and then they've got Leeds at home on Saturday.
Big Sam might be in charge by then.
Yeah. Oh my God! I mean, can they get the Allardyce bounce? I mean, I did a double take today when I read that Allardyce was in final negotiations for that, and it's unbelievable. To think Lampard and Allardyce will be managing two teams in the Premier League at this stage.
One of the managers around. Surely somebody fancies the Leeds job. Surely
it's got to be just look through Hello magazine and just choose a Z lister out of that, maybe. But anyone can take the job, take those, would be better than those guys. But to be honest with you, I mean, the next 2 games that City have, for me, like, they're at home in both games. Leeds look absolutely shot now. I mean, they're conceding heaps of goals. They're looking, they might get the manager bounce, but not with Allardyce, in my view. So I personally expect, I think if City are going to drop points, it might be that game at Goodison Park between the Real Madrid games. But I don't foresee it, to be honest, in the next 2. It'd be wonderful if West Ham could go up there, and because they're not out. I mean, West Ham at least do have the quality to threaten City. They've got Paquetá, they've got Jared Bowen and Declan Rice, and people. They do have a bit of quality about them, West Ham, when they're on it. So I've got like half a hope out there for that. But I think City are going to go and thump Leeds 4s and 5s and potentially even more at the weekend. So I'm just focusing on us, really, and just so glad that we've got another win.
It's fabulous that we've got another win. We've got to keep doing what we can do. We only need them to get a couple of draws, and then the doors open again, I think.
Yeah.
Oh no, hang on, 2 draws within it, it would put us. We'd need them to lose one. I don't know. I don't want to do the permutations. It's pointless.
Yeah. I think the
But
thing for us is it is about just doing what we need to do, and then just hoping. I think if we start to, I think the minute we start, I mean, obviously as fans we can do this, but I think if the players are starting to sort of look at these kind of permutations, they take their eye off what, And I made this point as well before we play West Ham and Southampton, and this game by game thing I think is really important, because you don't arrive at the City game if you shit the bed against Newcastle and Southampton. Sorry, against West Ham and Southampton, which is what we did do. If we'd done our business against West Ham and Southampton, we'd be able to kind of play with a bit more freedom of mind against City. So for me, it's about Newcastle, and for me, it's about pride. I want Arsenal to. We saw how good our season started when we had a good pre-season. I genuinely believe that every game is important, because I think if you finish the season strongly, you're in the Champions League. It's going to be a lot more attractive to a potential signing than if we limped over the line and finished third, for example, and still got Champions League. I think we'd still be attractive, but people go, ended the season badly, and again, I think pre-season is important. I think if you have a good pre-season, obviously the results are not critical, but I do think that the pre-season we had last time round did sort of carry us into a good frame of mind going in.
yeah,
So for me, it's about pride, professional pride. This team has been brilliant this season, and just for their sake more than anything, I want us to finish the season strongly. I don't expect us to win every game, if I'm being totally honest. I think maybe we've got a draw or two potentially in there, but I think the next 2 games are going to be tough. But I just want Arsenal to go out with a bit of a bang and go, great season, guys. You played really, really, really well. I think what today has sort of taught me as well, though, is that the Southampton and the West Ham games,
they were killers.
it annoys me even more almost, because I'm thinking, right, we've
Yeah,
come out tonight, we've played really, really well. If only we could have, even if we drew against West Ham, just turn that Southampton result into a win somehow.
yeah,
It does make me rue those games a bit more. But
yeah.
yeah, just wonderful just to get that winning feeling back, and I just wanted a win tonight, but for that to be accompanied with a really strong performance, it just made me feel really good about. I think now we're at a point where we've almost got to look at the long term sort of trajectory of where things are heading with this club, and when you see the underlying optics of a performance like that, it just makes you feel a lot more confident.
I mean, going to your point about the attractiveness of the club now. If you're a player, out in world football, doesn't matter where you're from, and you look at the Premier League, because the Premier League is where every player sort of wants to be. Bar a Barcelona or a Real Madrid that come knocking for you. You look at the Premier League, we've got to be up there with the sort of teams to go for. It should. Okay, City, obviously, they're in a bit of a world of their own. But if you look at the rest of the Premier League, what we've got to offer, I think we are the youngest, or if not the second youngest
Second
team.
youngest, I think, behind Southampton.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, but they're going to be gone. So
Yeah.
we're going to be the youngest team in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So the project, the players that you've got, the way that we play, the vibe that's around the club right now, I think I think we're going to be spoilt for choice. I really do think that we're going to,
Yeah.
we're going to target these quality players that we want in the summer, and we're going to get them and land them early. I think.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we've not really shown an ability to get the big deals over the line as efficiently in the past. So I'm hoping that changes. But I think the great thing about a project like this from an Arsenal perspective is, like, if you look at some of City's players, some of them are kind of in their prime now. You look at people like Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, and players like that. And what I love about this Arsenal team is the players the core that we've got there at the moment. They're going to be better next season.
The
Well,
platform
they
now
should
to
be,
go
and
for,
they'll be
yeah.
better in the following season. So that's the exciting thing about all of this. Although they will get to a point. I mean, personally, I think we should be walking out away from this season with a trophy, even if it's the Carabao or the FA Cup. We should be walking away from this season the way we've played, a trophy in Champions League
We deserve
qualification.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw a statistic earlier. Like City have only been top for 16 days. in total.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable. And we were like 240 something, or it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So yeah, I mean, we definitely deserve something.
Exactly. Wrapping up, final thoughts then. What was your sort of take out of the game? Where do you think this leaves us?
Well, I think it was the
where's your
perfect
mood at now?
mood's good. I think it was the perfect game for us. I was a bit nervous, obviously, going into the game, given what had happened previous. But Chelsea were probably the best team for us to play. You know, they are where they are because they are utterly crap right now. There's no identity at that club, and so for us to play them and be so commanding, you know, and utterly dominant, it was just it was a joy to watch. The second half, I think we took the foot off the pedal ever so slightly, and we weren't as clinical enough. Which sort of opened the door a little bit for Chelsea, but I don't think they offered much of a threat. I think, for me, standout performance, you go look at Xhaka, Ødegaard. I thought Jorginho. I mean, that midfield trio, I think, were absolutely brilliant, and they controlled the game, and gave us the platform to sort of do what we needed to do.
Yeah.
Looking forward, the Newcastle game. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of a good barometer this game is, the Chelsea game is, for us to sort of look forward to the Newcastle game, because, I just think Chelsea was so abject that it's difficult to know where we truly are as a team right now, given the opponents we faced tonight.
And
what do you
think
think?
If we replicated the performance tonight against Newcastle, we'll be in a good spot, particularly in that first half.
But will they?
I'll be blown away if we keep a clean sheet. When you look at it, Newcastle, since they've they a few months ago they were the meanest defence, but they couldn't score for Toffee, and now Alex Isak's back for them, and they seem to be scoring goals again. So, and especially at home, I'd be blown away if we got a clean sheet. Put it that way. But then, on the other hand, I think when they came to the Emirates, they were very, very defensive. Like they were actually, I'd be embarrassed.
They were a bit lucky to get away with that draw.
But they were dull. Their fans were taking their shirts off and celebrating corner kicks and things. It was just embarrassing and shameful, if you ask me. But what they've done since then is, added Isak's come back in. They're now starting to score. I mean, defensively they're still solid. And I'll be blown away if we get a clean sheet, put it that way. But I think because Newcastle are at home, they should hopefully be more expansive than when they came to the Emirates, which would hopefully then leave us to be able to kind of impress our game on them. I actually kind of expect, quite a goal scoring game, to be honest, for both sides. And maybe this kind of leads on to her predictions for the week, but I might let you go first. I mean, to wrap the prediction up for this game, I just basically had Arsenal to win against Chelsea, which I'm right. I mean, maybe it's not the most adventurous one, but at the time I just wanted something. I just needed something, and I felt like
I thought we would have won this game as well. I couldn't have put a score on it because I didn't know, but I thought we'd win. So Newcastle, bold prediction.
Where are you at?
Oh, I don't know. I want to say win, but I just I think maybe 2-2.
Okay.
I want to be wrong. Let me just make that absolutely clear.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna go 2-2.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of feel that might happen myself. I'm gonna maybe go for more of a player led one. I'm going to say that Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli are going to have at least a goal involvement each.
By that you mean either a goal or an assist, yeah?
Yeah, I feel that he might end up starting with Martinelli again up against Trippier's obviously a really good right back, but I think that kind of pace, there might be more space on the counter attack as we're away from home. And I just think Jesus in the first half, he looked back to kind of the form that he's been scoring a bit of late anyway, but he looked to be back on form. And yeah, I've got a good feeling about that. So I'm gonna a goal involvement each.
Okay.
for
I
both
think the
those
joy
guys.
would come down the right side, though, no? Because they play Dan Burn at left back, don't they?
They do.
So Saka against Dan Burn.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking. I mean, I thought Saka was better tonight than he has been in recent games. I think he had that shot in the second half. He was dancing into the box a bit more and kind of starting to cause a little bit of chaos. But I've got a bit more faith at the moment in Martinelli, and I think Martinelli might be nice and rested for this game. For this one, so I'm going to go. It's not that I'm not going for Saka, but I just, and I totally take your point about Dan Burn, but I'm going to. I think Jesus looked a bit more razor sharp than he's been, and I think Martinelli is our form player, and I think with that kind of pace on those two players on the counter attack, that's what I'm going to go with, and I hope Trossard can play 90 minutes for once because I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for the guy, to be honest.
I don't think he will, will he?
No, he probably won't.
He won't be in the starting 11. He won't be.
Yeah, I know.
He won't be. He won't be. I mean, for me, the questions are now about the centre backs and whether Partey comes back in or whether you stick with Jorginho.
Yeah.
They're the questions now.
Yeah, I agree.
We will see on Sunday.
I feel bad for Trossard. I think he's been excellent, and I would like to have seen him be given a full game today, to be honest, because I didn't think when he was taken off that he was actually flagging in any way.
No,
I kind of understood Saka coming off a bit because I think he's not been at it in recent weeks, and Nelson has actually looked quite good when he's come on. But I did kind of feel a bit sorry for Trossard coming off today. So he always looks lively. He's got good stamina. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that, to be honest. But a win's a win. That's the main thing.
Yeah, got the points on the board.
Exactly. Right, should we leave it there for the week?
Let's leave it there. I think we're done.
Yeah, great.
So yeah,
well, thanks for joining
subscribe,
us,
everybody.
That's exactly it. Like and subscribe, and we'll be back next after the Newcastle away game. I mean, let's strap ourselves in and hope we get a nice victory. Then it's the next cup final for us. So yeah, exactly. Until the next time, Gooners.
See you later.
See you later,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye.